waterproofing and prep of a Schluter Kerdi line drain. Here's how. Okay, so now that the drain's in, it's time to get it all sealed up. Now I'm going to put these corners, pre-made corners, into both corners of where the drain meets the back wall, and then I'm going to put the curb in and then seal up the entire shower to make it completely waterproof. So the key to this system is the overlapping of the Kerdi membranes or the sealing with the Kerdi-Band. Now the Kerdi-Band, they're making 5 inches, they're making 7 inches, they're making 10 inches. Basically what you really need most of the time is a 5-inch Kerdi-Band. And when you're installing the Kerdi-Band, you always want to get a 2-inch overlap. Now here I'm installing the pre-made corners, so that makes it a little bit easier. You don't have to cut and fold the membrane for the corners. But if you don't have a corner, you can still do that. You can still cut it and fold it into the corners, and you will still obtain a completely waterproof shower. So Schluter calls for a 2-inch overlap on the seams and anywhere where you're placing the Kerdi-Band to create a seal. That's pretty much an industry standard. 2 inches is more than is needed, but is recommended to ensure that you do get a watertight seal. At the end of this video, the shower will be watertight. You could actually take a shower in this stall before any towel goes up, and it'll be completely watertight. Waterproofing is important. It's not something you want to leave out. If you've got a tile guy, he comes in, he installs Durock on the wall, and then he tiles right over it, not good. It needs to be waterproof. The water over time gets behind the tile, penetrates into the Durock, goes through the Durock and into the wall cavity. There's several ways of addressing that. I tend to lean towards a sealed shower system like Schluter. This is a Schluter shower. It's the finalization of the waterproofing. The drain is in. I have to tie the drain into the waterproofing, the Kerdi membrane, waterproof all the seams and all the screws and all the corners. And I'm going to be putting the curb in. I'll show you how to put the curb in on this one here. Typically, you can put the curb in before you do the mud because of the way the shower was, that it had a flat pitch towards the drain. It was actually easier to leave the curb out. Anyway, I'll show you how to put that in. The other systems are like Weedy, Latacrete. There's a bunch of them that you can use to waterproof your shower. I tend to go towards a seal system. It's a modern system. It's a better system in my view because no water can get any further than the waterproofing, which is directly under the tile. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video and you get something out of it. Okay, so when I put this mud basin for the shower floor, and just in case you didn't see that video, the piece of 2x4 that I'm taking off here is a screed, and I had another screed at the other end where the drain is, which is lower than the one I'm taking off here, so that I get my 1/4 inch per foot pitch towards the drain and get a flat pitch. Anyway, I'll put a link to that video in the description and possibly in the cards. And so now that it's dry, and the reason I did that, if I had my curb in before, then that would interfere with my screeding down because, you know, the curb would be in the way. So putting that screed in that way makes it easier for me to just throw in the mud, screed down to the drain, and then once it's dry, take it all out. Now I have to take out, now I have to install the curb. So I took out that board, and now I am going to apply thin set to all areas where the curb is going to contact with the floor and the mud. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And I'm going to apply it to the floor, to the edge of the mud, and also to the curb itself. And the reason I do that is so that I can ensure that I get full contact everywhere the curb comes in contact with the floor and the mud. And on the bottom, I'm also going to add some thin set to the bottom of the curb, and I'm going to actually leave it pretty thick. That way, if the floor is a little bit out of whack, a little bit out of level, I can make an adjustment by tapping it down. Okay, so I got my curb all prepped. Now I'm going to put it in place. A little difficult to pick it up without getting things all over you. And I'm going to check for level with my my level. Make sure that it's completely embedded in the mud all around. The curb is made of these are preformed curbs. They come in 4 feet and I think 38 inches, and they're made out of Kerdi board. You don't need to waterproof the surface of it because it's already waterproof. The older curbs were just foam. These are actually made out of Kerdi board, so you only have to waterproof the seams and the corners. So I'm going to get this just the way I want it, and then I'm going to add this is a 4 foot length, and because this shower is like over 6 feet, I'm going to have to piece it together. And at the end there, I actually put in a piece of 2-inch Kerdi board so that when I put the other piece on, it kind of locks in. You don't really need to do that, but I just feel better doing it. Okay, so I'm going to put it in, make sure everything's aligned, everything's straight, everything's level, and then move on to the rest of the ceiling of the shower with the Kerdi-Band. And a lot of these foam boards and these seal systems are done the same way with some slight variations. So a lot of the stuff that you see in these videos you can apply to other types of systems. Just always just make sure that you check to make sure that you're doing it right. I do have videos using Laddercrete's Hydra-Band board system. As always, if you got any questions, leave your comments in the comment section below. I'll put a few links in the cards in the top left hand corner. And again, most importantly, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks, and I hope you get something out of my videos. So Schluter makes these preformed corners that come with your drain kit, be it linear drain or a standard drain, and they really save a lot of time. When you're doing these corners that you put on the curbs, you want to put those in before you do any of the other banding, because they tend to pucker on the part that goes in the wall, and the more you have build up, the harder it is to get those to go flat. So I'm gonna do these 2 corners like this, and then I'm gonna do the walls and put all the Kerdi-Band on the walls, and then I'm gonna move on to the floor. And once that is done, the shower will be completely watertight and waterproof. Okay, so I pre-cut all the Kerdi-Band. I'm using the 5-inch version of the Kerdi-Band, and I'm going to overlap all the seams. So that's going to be in the corners where one sheet of Kerdi board meets another sheet, or where it meets the drywall here. The drywall I'm actually going to wipe down a little bit. And so anywhere there's a seam, you need to apply the Kerdi-Band. Also, the screws, where the washers and screws are going to need a patch over those. A lot of guys will just run a whole strip of Kerdi-Band right up and down where all the screws are, so they don't have to cut all the patches. But that's a lot of extra Kerdi-Band that you have to use. Instead of cutting a 4-inch square, you're gonna use, well, in this case, like 8 feet. Either way will work. If you're in a rush, then you can do it that way. If you've got the time, you can do the patches. I pretty much always do the patches. And when I place the screws into the Kerdi board, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll strategically put the screws so that, like, down by the floor, so that when I put the Kerdi-Band on, it'll cover all those screws. Or on the seams, you'll overlap the seams with one screw and washer. So I'm going to do all the corners, seams, and screws, and then I'm going to move to the floor and put the Kerdi-Band also from wall to floor transition. And then I'm going to install my membrane over my mud floor. At that point, the shell will be completely watertight and ready for tile. So just in case I didn't mention it, I'm going to be using a Kerdi trowel, which is actually a square notch trowel, 1/8 inch by 1/8 inch by 1/8 inch square notch trowel. Use a putty knife to smooth out the thin set. You want to get as tight as possible to the board so you don't get buildup, but you still you want to make sure that it's adhered. Okay, so like I was saying before, you cut 4-inch squares or 5-inch squares out of your Kerdi-Band, and you put some thin set over the screws, and then you apply your patches over those. It really helps to use 2 putty knives when you're putting on the patches. That's pretty much it for the walls. You put the Kerdi-Band and the patches, and then I'm going to move on to the floor. Okay, so same thing here. I'm going to pre-cut all my Kerdi-Band, and I'm going to put the corners in the corners, and then just 2-inch overlap over everything, and then I'm going to put my membrane on. So a tip here to avoid buildup is when you cut your Kerdi-Band, don't go all the way to the wall. Just go to where the corner of the pre-made corner ends. Okay, so I cut the membrane in. This is, I need some extra pieces over here. So I'm going to wet it down, just dampen it, spread the thin set, and then push it in. So when you're going over a concrete floor or a mud base or plywood or anything that's very absorbent, it's always a good idea to dampen the substrate. And the reason for that is so that it doesn't draw the moisture out of the thin set and prematurely dry it out, and that will result in a weaker bond. The other benefit of doing that is when you wet it down, you take, remove any dust that might be on the substrate. So again, this is the same trowel that I've been using for the Kerdi-Band, 8 by 8 by 8. And the Kerdi membrane is about 40 inches wide by whatever length you buy. It comes in rolls of different lengths. I don't remember the actual lengths of them, but they are about 40 inches wide. So this shower is more than 40 inches, so I'm going to have to put a piece at the curb to seam it together. And you can do it two ways. You can either overlap the Kerdi with itself by 2 inches, and that's what I usually do, or you can just butt them together and then put some Kerdi-Band over the seam. It seems like an extra step in this case, so just overlapping the membrane by 2 inches usually makes a quicker installation. The way I like to do it is pre-cut everything, so you're not trying to cut while your cement is drying on your substrate. And then I will place the Kerdi-Band or the Kerdi membrane onto the floor, fold it back about halfway, spread my thin set, and then roll it into the thin set and smooth it off. So just to be clear, it does not matter what order you put the components together as far as the membrane and the band goes. You can put the membrane down first and then put the banding in, or you can put the banding in and then put the membrane on top. This is a waterproof installation. It's not meant to shed water. It's supposed to be completely watertight. So the order does not matter. As long as you have your 2-inch overlap, it does not matter what order you put it in. I get a lot of questions like that saying, well, shouldn't you put the overlap so that when the water sheds from one to the other? No, it doesn't make any difference. The order is inconsequential. So once you got one side all pressed down and smoothed out, fold back the other side and repeat. So one thing to be very cautious about when you're smoothing it down, I use steel putty knives. You will make sure you don't rip a hole in the membrane. If you're afraid of doing that, use a plastic putty knife. You can round off the corners of the putty knife, so it's less likely that that's going to happen. I just go ahead and just use my regular putty knife, and I'm very careful on how I do that. So just be careful that when you're putting it down, you're not putting any holes in it, and you want to make sure that there's no residue or any sand or anything under the under the membrane. So vacuum the mud before you start to make sure you get any loose parts or anything that could be an impediment to the smoothing of the membrane. So I'm going to put these last couple of pieces in. Remember to have the 2-inch overlap anywhere that the membrane meets another membrane, 2-inch overlap, or you could do the Kerdi-Band if you want, and that will finish this shower as far as prepping with the Kerdi-Band to make it completely waterproof and watertight. Let it set overnight, and then usually it's a good idea to flood test. Once you've done that, you're ready to install tile. So that's it, prepped, ready for tile.